Welcome to the first part of the build of my tricopter. So I don't at the moment know how long this video is going to take or how long it's going to take to build, so I'm just going to get straight into it and hopefully I'll condense this video down to no more than 10 minutes. First thing you've got to do is download the PDFs and then print them out. The important bit here is when you print these drawings out, print them with no scaling. Now this is a UK paper size, this is A3, and it's very important, no scaling, otherwise it just messes up all the dimensions. These are the first set of drawings. When I actually do the proper set, I'll put dimensions on them so you can check, but on this particular one the main body should be 350mm, and it is. Should be 120 going up here, and all these bits going down the middle here. Should be 50mm with 3.3 either side for the wood thickness. So that's the main body, and then you've got the arms where the side or rear propellers go on, and again check the distances. Each one of these interlocking bits here should be 20mm, so it's the same 20s down there, 20s, 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 and then overall width should be 40mm here, same there. And these sections here should be 20mm apart, so it's 20, 20 and then another 3.3 for wood thickness there. It's important these things are correct, otherwise they won't fit in with the sections at the back, the main unit. So that's the first part. The second part is then cut all the bits nice and closely and then stick them to the wood. Some parts we need to do two parts and others are just singular, so I will try to mark up the drawings. So you'll know how many bits of each one you need. So bear with me while I cut these out. I would suggest you leave about 3mm around the edges so you can get them stuck to the wood nice and tight, but leave yourself enough room for cutting. I'm only going to cut out the first bit. I'll do the rest while it's not on video. So I've got to make sure the grain's the correct way and do both bits the same way. You don't really want one with the grain one way and one with the grain the other way because they kind of flex differently. And the glue I use is kind of this stick glue, and it works really well. Put it on the back of the paper, stick it to the wood, and after you've cut it out you should generally be able to just peel the paper off again, and the glue tends to stick to the paper and not the wood, so you don't have any messy sticky residue. Okay, so that's how I basically go about this. When I've got all of it stuck together, I'll then double up the wood, and then I will cut them out on my fret saw. So I will see you in a bit when I've stuck the bits down and then cut them all out. Okay, this is the second part. I've relocated to the shed. So I've stuck all the bits of paper to the wood, and I'm in the process of nailing or tacking the two bits of wood together so when I cut them out they don't fall to bits. It's going to take a while. Once I've tacked the bits together, I'm going to have to cut them out. So I'm cutting out the main side sections here, where you've got a slot for another piece of wood. You kind of want to check before you separate the two pieces that the slot's the right size. So I have a spare bit of 3mm or 1/8 wood. Just check it fits in nicely. You don't want it to be too tight and you don't want it to be too loose. If it's too tight you'll end up fighting with yourself when you come put it together, and it's too loose it just won't fit together nicely. So there's quite a lot more to do, so I'm going to turn the camera off and just put some earplugs in and get going. So it's getting late now and I'm still on the fret saw. As you can see on this bit I have pre-drilled all the holes so I can do the lightening of the bits, but this is such a time consuming bit Hopefully at the end it should all slot together nicely and come together very quickly. So I'm still cutting out bits of wood. It's getting late, it's already dark. I just need to point out these bits here. I've drawn 1, 2, 3 and 4. It's important that one pair you cut on 1 and 3 and the other pair you cut on 2 and 4. That's to allow the right stagger for the wheel mount. And the other thing that's worth pointing out on this section here, you need 3 bits, so I've tacked 3 bits of wood together. Otherwise everything's going good. So I've spent about 3 hours cutting out all these bits, and as I explained, I've made sure that all the slots are correct by test fitting them all. But before I separate the pairs of bits, I will check the other items fit together correctly, and if they don't, I can adjust it. You just want to check it fits and just mark out any place where it doesn't fit, so you can put it on the saw again and just take a bit off. Okay, so they're not looking too bad. I can just go and clean up the few bits that need adjusting. So I've now separated all the bits, and you can see how many bits make up this model. It's quite a lot of work. So I'm going to start with the central tub. I've laid all the bits out here. You'll see there are 4 bits that look like this. 2 are spare, but they're useful for holding the bits together. So we're going to start with this. This is marked as the grill. So that goes up the front with the other one above it. Then we're going to put in these 2 sections. They form the front motor mount pivot points. Then we've got the section that fits behind that, kind of the bonnet, I think I've called it. This has got the cutout here so you can get to that screw head there. The next bit we'll put in is the seat base. You will find there are 3 bits that look the same. The smallest one is the back of the seat up here. It's not symmetrical, all the other bits are symmetrical. The middle one is the base of the seat, and the other one is the front of the seat. Then you'll find one that's solid, i.e. no cutouts, and that is where the steering wheel goes up the front, or we'll call it the dashboard. And then this one is the back of the seat. So far it's fitting together quite nicely. I've obviously had a trial run, but I was quite pleased I didn't have to make any adjustments. Underneath we've then got these 2 bits, and they form the undercarriage mount for the front wheel. So that goes in there, there. I'm not going to put the undercarriage in, but basically that would just slot in there. Then we've got a servo mount for the front steering or yaw control. I'm not going to glue that in at the moment, but I'll put it in just so you can see where it goes. This section is obviously the bit that goes at the back. There's 3 of these bits, but I'm only going to put 1 in at the moment. And that leaves you with these 2 bits, and these are the footrest for the action man. So these go in this front section here. So there you go, you have the body built up. Obviously it's not glued yet. And just to demonstrate, Mr. Action Man will sit nicely in there, and he's going to get his legs velcroed to the front rests, and he'll have a little steering wheel in the middle. Okay, let's assemble one of the arms. You'll remember when we were making it, these bits had 2 different slots in 2 different places. It's important that you have one of each on each side, and I'll make it clear with photos that the one that's nearest this edge here should be in front, otherwise the undercarriage will be wonky. So we're just going to build it up, and I'll fast forward this section. So that's the arm built up. I've put the undercarriage on this one. It helps hold everything in place. I'm now going to build the other side and put the whole thing together and see how big this craft is. So there you go, that's the model put together. It's not glued yet, but it's very useful if it holds itself together, because then you're not going to have any problems with the gluing. I've only spotted one problem so far, and that's these wheels on mine are a bit tight, so I'll adjust that in the plans. I might just put a 3mm spacer in there to clear mine. Now it's time to glue every bit together and then fit the hardware. So I've been working on this for a couple of evenings now. I've done quite well. I've glued all the main tub together and the arms. This one's still got tie wraps holding everything together. What I haven't done is glued the arms onto this central bit. I've got a tie wrap holding them together, and for the time being that's how it's going to stay. There's always a possibility I might want to change these arms, put them upside down, so I don't want to glue them in place. So the next thing we're going to do is the undercarriage. I've already glued the front one in, there's no surprises with that one. But for the rear, because the arms are swept, these are slightly staggered, and because they're slightly staggered, the holes have to be slightly staggered to compensate. So you'll find these 2 bits are approximately 6mm difference, and that allows for the axle to be in line. So I'm going to glue them all in place, but to help me glue them, I will put a long axle in, just to make sure everything's in line. Should also point out on mine, I've had to put this little bit in here as a spacer because I didn't quite get the gap between the 2 bits correct, so the wheel wouldn't fit. So that needs to go forward. That's how it's going to go, and just to demonstrate, the axle should go through nicely. So that's not too bad, and that's how I'll glue it in. So I'll do that and then talk again. So the next bit is the motor mount for the front motor. It's made up of these bits. Basically just make a little square out of the bits. The plain bit goes in first. And the pre-drilled bit goes in. It's important to note on this bit that you've got to get it lined the correct way, and I've marked it out. The important bit is that the cables for the motor should run in line with the holes on the sides. If you get it the wrong way around, you're just going to find that the cables come out the side, which you don't really want. And these two last bits here are to reinforce the holes on the inside, because we're going to use captive nuts on the back and pull them through the wood. So I'm now going to glue this together, and then hopefully by tomorrow I should be able to start putting things together. Okay, so I've finished the front motor pod. I just need to explain a few things about how this is going to pivot. So you can see in this picture there's a captive nut. I've installed the first one, the other one still needs to be installed. So I don't know if it's worth pointing out how to do these. You simply just put the nut in place. And then basically draw it into the wood using an Allen head screw. This is how the pod is going to rotate. As you can see, it just draws it in. Do it nice and tight until you can't do it anymore. There you go, you can see that. That's gone nice and tight. So I've also drilled the holes for the motor. I drilled through them because the outer bit was the only one that was drilled. So I've drilled through, and the middle holes being drilled out to suit the shaft of the motor. And there's one more thing I want to show you, and that is, until it focuses, you've got this little hole here. On the inside we're just going to have this pushrod connector. So that's going to be put on the inside with a nut on the outside, and the pushrod's going to go from there to the servo underneath. So I'm just going to concentrate on this bit because this is the bit that's hardest to do and most important to get right. This is the underside. I've taken the front wheel out, and you can see the front servo, and that just slots in like so. I will glue it in position, and I believe that you can get to most of the bolts or screws after it's been fitted. So that's that side. Turning it back the other way, you can see the servo down there, and I just need to demonstrate how we fit the front motor. You can see I've installed the motor, I've got the push rod, and if I bring that closer you might be able to see that I have actually bent the linkage over so it won't fall out. So that is going to go in here. You can see I've already put the two screws in. These are M4 screws, and these are lock nuts. So obviously you want the wires going down, and I'll sort out the linkage in a minute. So you basically put that in, and then with a very thin spanner hold the nut and tighten up the screws, and that holds the whole assembly in place. And once you've done that, you can then sort out the linkage on the other side. So there you go, the motor's in place, and with the screws fully up, it's quite free movement, quite precise movement as well. And on the other side, I believe the push rod will end up being crossed over, so it goes from this side to the arm on this side. But I'll work that out. But I think all it's got to do is basically push through that hole, and that will be that linkage done. As you can see, I've finished mounting the front motor pod, and I've installed a 15-inch propeller. When I was designing this, I was very careful to make sure that the propeller would not hit the ground or the craft at full angle. It's very close to hitting Action Man's arm, but I think he'll be okay. I've also fitted the rear motors and propellers. As you can see, I've chosen to mount them upside down on the underside of the arms. I don't know how successful this is going to be, but that's what I was looking to do. At the back you can also see the flight control board. It's the kk2.1.5 board. I've actually mounted it back to front, and the reason I've done that, most tricopters are configured with this steerable motor at the back. I may be able to adjust that using my own custom mix, but I've never played with custom mixers, so the easiest way to get this craft in the air is to fly it backwards. So the next thing to do is to wire up the speed controllers and see if we can get it flying. Okay, so I've wired up all the speed controllers, and I've temporarily connected a servo tester just so I can see the force or the lift that we're getting. So the front motor has a propeller on. It's pushing the wrong way, and the propeller is mounted upside down, so it's got the best efficiency. So we should be able to see how much force each propeller is giving. I'll just zoom in for you. So hopefully you were able to see that was 600 grams of force, and that's with a 3-cell battery. If I need to, I can go to 4 cells on these speed controllers, or I do actually have some other speed controllers that will go up to 8 cells. The model itself weighs just over 800 grams, the battery is 220, so we should be okay on 3 cells. That's the final part of this video. I'll hopefully get this uploaded tonight and then do another one of the test flight.